Awesome. All right. Okay, so everyone, welcome to one of the most awaited Legends of Outreach sessions. I think most of you by now have context of what this session is, but I'll still, for the benefit of the rest of you, I'll share that at the Outreach Collective, our attempt is to learn from the best in the industry, people who have been true disruptors, who've been change makers. And when you think of outreach, not just in India, but globally, the one name that you cannot leave out on the top of the list is Ganesh Kohli. You might know him now as the founder of the IC3 movement, but he has a prolific background. He has started some of the most disruptive outreach practices that today we look around and think are accepted and they've been around for a while, but actually it's Ganesh who has started most of the stuff that we actually do today. And I think I cannot think of a better person to give context of what was back then and what it is now and what's going to be in the future. This session is about knowing Ganesh's journey, not just through IC3, but all his other initiatives you might or might not know of, but they've impacted your life for sure in some or the other way if you're a part of this industry. And I want to hand over to Ankur to give a formal introduction for Ganesh, and then we move into our first question.
Thank you, Bhakti. Thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, as you said, it's an honor to have Ganesh with us. I mean, he is somebody that has mentored a lot of us, if not on a daily basis, but through his disruptive activities in which we have been a major part of. I mean, I still remember my first meeting with Ganesh when I was with Ashoka University, and he came to us when he was hosting the first IC3 conference. And I mean, we had a beautiful office in Vasant Kunj, and Kanchi and me were together. And we were, when he came in, he was a man on a mission. And, as we are all mere mortals, I mean, we are all skeptical of, especially in university outreach, of people coming out to us, inviting us for a conference, doing those sessions and doing the circuit kind of a thing. But Ganesh told me one thing that he said very nicely that day, and I still echoes with me till today. And this is what he says every time I meet him, even 5 years down the line, is that it's not about the conference. IC3 is not a conference, and he was clear from it from day one. And even today, when I talked to him last week, I was talking to him. He echoed the same sentiment that what he is on is a larger mission than just a conference. And conference is not an end game to that. It's just a way to reach to the goal, which is counseling in every school. And I think both you, me, and the larger population of admissions, outreach, career guidance professional have been inspired by him. I mean, I know you told me read out his bio, but I when I see him on the camera, it's like I know this guy so much. I have been a small part of his mission that I can speak from my heart. Even I remember when he launched what is today a milestone for career counselors, IC3 Institute. I was with Jindal, and at that point of time, Jindal was one of the 4 universities that came up on board with IC3 to establish IC3 Institute, run the cohort. I still remember that meeting that I had with him in Taj. I remember Professor Sean Bala, Vineet Gupta, and all of us together in a room with him. And again, I was amazed. And I said, Ganesh, how are we going to pull this off? How do you think people are going to come to 4 universities in a year? And he just looked at me and he said, you just support me, and I'll make sure that this happens. And today, IC3 Institute is doing phenomenal work in that area. I mean, this he's an inspiration. And then my work with him in the IC3 committees, and he inspiring us with his own recognitions. I mean, you have been awarded by IC3. I have been awarded by IC3. Those recognitions coming from an institution like IC3 means a lot. I mean, those awards recognitions cannot be bought. They are only given to people who deserve it. I mean, those act as big motivators for all of us in the community. So IC3 is phenomenal, but IC3 is not the end of it. That's the beauty of that idea. That what is more bigger than that is the mission that we are all in, and the power that Ganesh has to bring people together and say, okay, this is the mission. Like a Pied Piper, follow me. but not behind me, but side by side me. So we are together with him. We all feel together with Ganesh, and that's his power. So I don't know if I did justice to it, but this is his intro to me from my heart, and I would like to initiate now our formal conversation with Ganesh. Uh, Ganesh, I still remember for the first couple of conferences that I did with IC3, you used to talk about what inspired you towards IC3, and one of the most important figures was Molly teacher. And I still remember the video that you showed us of you visiting her home after years and the impact. And that video, I still remember in a room full of IC3 attendees, all of them were in tears after seeing this video, saying that. So IC3 was born out of those deep emotions, those deep connect that he had, and he felt inspired by a teacher. So Ganesh, I think it will be very prudent if we start this conversation with the genesis of IC3 and Molly teacher, of the role, the story. I'm sure there are a lot of new people here that will be very eager to know about Molly teacher, what most of us know, but many of us may not know also. So Ganesh, over to you. Please, if you can talk about Molly teacher and her impact on your life and the IC3.
Yeah, both of you have embarrassed me enough for the first 5-7 minutes. So I will take 30 seconds to recover from all of these words. And what a beautiful time to talk about, Molly teacher legacy. Molly teacher just passed away last week, and I was in Bangalore for the funeral, and I did not feel this kind of grief other than when my parents passed away. And I was this hopeless boy in school who flunked in Hindi but my mother was a Hindi teacher, and I failed Hindi in 5th standard. And the entire family was called, and I was made to sit in the center, and I felt so, how a 5th grader can be put through like incredible shame. And I had 2 older sisters who were very bright. I was not at all bright, and I always got compared. And then there was this teacher in my 7th grade who taught math, and I just fell in love with the way she taught, the way she held the space. And by the time I was in 9th grade, I said, I want to become Molly Abraham. I want to be like her. I want to be this teacher. And that's how I ended up teaching math. But actually, I mentioned Molly teacher in the first IC3 conference in 2016, in August 2016. And that's how people were asking for the next 1 year, where is Molly teacher? And that's how the idea of 15 days before the 2017 conference, I got desperate because people said, Ganesh, you have to find a way to get Molly teacher to Delhi, because the first conference was in Mumbai and the second one was in Delhi. So I ended up calling her, and she had a stroke and she wasn't able to travel. So I said, can I come and record a message for the audience? She said, are you sure you want to come to Mysore? I said, yeah, I want to come to Mysore. And so I called our videographer, who also happened to be a chartered accountant, by the way. And he said, okay, we'll go and record a message of Molly teacher. And here I see 5 in the morning, because we had to go to Mysore. We left early morning flight. This guy removes his phone and starts recording at the airport. And I said, Akhil, what are you doing? He said, let me do what I want to. We'll record Molly teacher, but let me record the journey. I want to. And he just did it. And this is 15 days before the conference. In the first cut, there was no plan to do this video. In the first cut after we came back, he said, I had tears in my eyes as I was recording it. And he said it happened in the first cut. So that actually that bond between a teacher and a counselor, or a counselor and a student is incredible. Most of us would not remember a body doctor we met when we were in 8th or 9th grade, but we remember the teacher we met in 8th or 9th grade. The teacher is a soul doctor. The counselor is a soul doctor. This work is sacred work. This work is not This is not a sales job or a product. These are human beings whose lives have to be touched in such profound ways you can touch them. Look what Molly teacher did. Hopeless boy to worthy enough to be in front of Bhakti and Ankur and all of the friends at TOC to be able to do this. So what we are doing, which is guiding young people, touching lives, this has 60-year impact, 70-year impact. We are all in many ways soul doctors, much more precious for society and much more important. Our actions are very important. And so yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, but Molly teacher has been an inspiration for me personally on my journey. I wanted to go to the US, do my PhD, become a professor at a university in electrical engineering. Most of my friends did that out of Vivekanand. I graduated in '97 with an electron. So Ankur, I thought both of you have the energy, Bhakti and you, of getting. I let a lot of secrets out because people thought I was this inhuman, hidden character who only shows up at IC3 conferences. So I actually wanted to be a professor of electrical engineering, and particularly signal processing was my area of interest. And I know Bhakti, you sent me this as the first question you wanted to ask me, but I was wondering what should I share. But I was born when my parents were 42, and as I was getting ready to go to the US, my parents were 62, 63 at that time. And I looked into their eyes and they said, are you going to, my father had lost his eyesight at that time, or, he could see very little because of his retina. He said, are you going to leave us at this point? And at that moment, I just gave up on this whole dream of going to the US, doing my PhD. And that's how I was here. And then I still knew I wanted to teach because I wanted to become Molly Abraham. And so I started out teaching engineering, mathematics, and realized that I was starving. And I had to do something better, which was a little more lucrative, was GRE preparation. And, over many years, I taught GRE. And the first ever 340 on 340 on the new GRE was my student, first ever, Ashwini Nene. She went to UCLA. The media called me for an interview on television. I did not go. I did not take credit for the score. So you guys have managed to draw me into an interview, which I am I was a little worried about. My wife said, Ganesh, you speak too candidly, so this may not be a good sign. You should not go out. I said, it has been, teaching and counseling has given me so much. But really, I felt after about 16, 17 years of teaching and counseling that, I wanted to step away. And that's how I actually announced that. And maybe I'm jumping a little bit here, but because Bhakti, I know you had a sequence of questions.
Just do your
But really, I, as an engineer by accident, a teacher by choice, but an entrepreneur by compulsion. I had to be entrepreneurial because after 6 years of teaching, from 97 to 2003, my friends were all working at Motorola, Texas Instruments, Microsoft, and I could see that they were, and I was struggling. A funny story is I had a typical Indian wedding, and I found my wife on jeevansathi.com. And I had to make sure that I found her within 1 month of the free subscription expiring, because I didn't have, this is the reality, And I was sitting on the horse in my wedding and negotiating with the band guys for a little less money. So I came from a situation where I was compelled to, get involved in the business of education in some sense, so that I could run my house and I could survive. I was loving the teaching for 12 hours, 14 hours a day, and the counseling. And I don't know, many people know I taught at Jamnabai Nursery School. I taught at the Podar School, both Podar schools. I taught at Sarla Birla Academy in Bangalore. I mean, nobody knows how much, and I never really was wanting and willing to go out and, I thought the students, I mean, I was always a very private person. IC3 actually really changed that in many ways. I mean, although I have tried to stay away from the media. In fact, Bhakti sent me a message 2 weeks back saying, Ganesh, it's high time IC3's phenomenal work is talked about in the media. I said, that will have to wait for me to retire or move away, because this, I mean, we like to do work on the ground quietly rather than, I mean, you talked about the IC3 Institute, Ankur. Sapna Goyal just messaged me saying that she's going for her son's graduation to Pune and wouldn't be here, but she wanted to. Sapna Goyal, graduate of that board that we created. I think there's some static here. So
I have muted him. Yeah.
So I think we have now trained 1,285 counselors. We've had 327 volunteer faculty in the IC3 Institute program. And we have some of the largest donors now looking at, I mean, we may actually be able to turn it into the Khan Academy for Career and College Counseling. So the vision is really about bringing counseling to every school. We're obsessed by that vision. We are saying if there's a math teacher in school, there should be a counselor in school. If there's a Molly teacher, and we are saying every teacher must be a 10% counselor, because this student needs the care of that teacher. And of course, the outreach profession is born and it has evolved, and, as I was trying to make ends meet, I was involved in this whole exercise and I saw the whole evolution of this field. But I really think at the heart of what we do, this is very different from selling cars or, or transacting in products or commodities. I mean, just the number of people who get impacted by your work and our work is incredible. And the way they get impacted. I mean, imagine lack of counseling, a kid ends up in Kota in a dark, dingy room for 5 years, goes into depression, becomes suicidal. A lot of tragic outcomes are, visible because of a lack of guidance and counseling. And when I was growing up, counseling was for those who had a psychological issue or a behavioral issue. We were always told social emotional counselors or behavioral counselors. Then a little bit later, I figured that counseling definition was the rich kid going abroad. I mean, what a skewed definition for counseling. It was, if I had wealth, I would get counseling. And if I did not, and I was going to go to the college next door, that counseling was not for me. And so really, even today, and I can tell you, if I did a poll today, 90% of the people do not even know what counseling is. And therefore, even to tell the outreach community what counseling is very difficult. Because counseling is not about finding the college. It is not about finding the career. It is not about preparing recommendations and writing essays or preparing a college application. Real counseling is about finding purpose. And this is not a distant, abstract idea, finding purpose. Purpose is here and now. Purpose in geography, purpose in history, purpose in liberal arts, purpose in, at least you don't, go into an area which is not your path and then suffer for 60 years. That's why we have grumpy 35-year-old on Monday mornings. They're all waiting for the weekend. Have we ever asked ourselves, the guy who's bored at work is the same kid who got bored in school. Same kid who did not have the context of careers and colleges and the real world in school got bored in life. So this is a pretty serious business. This is not about kids going from school to university, and that's part of the process. But counseling impacts learning outcomes. I don't need to open a single physics book to teach physics. I don't need to go to any physics lab to teach physics. You can teach physics right where you are. There's gravity, there's acoustics, there's concave convex lenses, there's every principle around mass, matter, force, light, everything. You can literally teach all school physics in the bedroom, all school chemistry in the kitchen. You can teach all economics in any space. We need to bring alive careers and colleges. All your colleges, all your programs, all your offerings, they have to come alive. This is a science and an art, career and college counseling. So our pedagogical innovations at IC3 is really what is driving IC3's training programs, etc. There's a lot of experimentation, a lot of work, a lot of research. And so yeah, I know I've kind of gone on a tangent, but maybe I'll let Bhakti and Ankur bring me back on track. I don't know from where to where I jumped and what I said, but yeah.
We've been flooded by messages on the WhatsApp group saying that, oh my God, this is crazy. This is so enriching. I think Ganesh, you mentioned this when you first started that you're shy, and therefore not a lot of people know your story and your context and your paths. They can see the larger than life Ganesh Kohli, but they don't really understand where it came from and what's so deep within. And I really think that people want to know you, and as much as you are able to, I think this platform, we're thankful that you've decided to share, and you did not go on a tangent at all. I think you covered some beautiful spectrum of conversations, including some of the ones that really stand out in my head are about how counseling is not about career or college, right? It's about learning outcomes, it's about now, it's about finding purpose, about how every teacher is a 10% counselor. These are some key takeaways. And I know that the community is very diligent. People actually make notes, by the way, when they're listening. So the third thing is also about how outreach professionals are also counselors. And I know that that's something that you have also recognized, and you are initiating an entire series of learning for outreach professionals, especially as a part of the IC3 pre-conference. And this is critical because we actually have not much locus standi to stand in front of a 13 or a 14-year-old and give them any advice about anything, because we really don't know what we are talking about other than admission and marketing, right? And we need to be trained as counselors as well, which brings me into this, segue into of, the role of universities. And, while counseling in every school is the core mission, universities are a key stakeholder on enabling that. So, what is your view on what you think universities can, should do, and are not doing and should do differently?
Yeah, actually, IC3 is created as much for universities as it is created for schools. And I want you to just look at the statistics and the numbers of how many university colleagues around the world are involved with IC3. We've had everyone from Cornell to Cambridge attend IC3. We've had pretty much every major institution participate and join us, and this is really this is so much in alignment with what universities are trying to accomplish. Universities, the actually bringing one purposeful young boy or girl into your campus can bring 10 very easily. And bringing one purposeless boy or girl into your campus can stop 10. For a lot of outreach professionals, every year the effort to bring the same enrollment numbers is the same. Progressively, if you've gotten it right, from one year to the next year, the effort should keep diminishing on how much energy it takes to bring a certain number of people into your campus. And so it's really important to know that from a university standpoint, the interest has to be that we bring purposeful young people, that we do not bring anybody onto our campus who are not meant to be there, who will become unhappy, who will actually be, hurting us more than helping us. Just because they paid a tuition revenue and they ended up paying tuition for 4 years and are leave unhappy people. Those who actually found joy and meaning in their institutions, they can become the biggest alumni donors, so this is about really all outreach professionals, everyone in this community and in all university communities have as critical a role to play as the counselors in many ways, that they make sure that the most insightful, the most appropriate method is adopted for outreach. Enrollment management, actually, Bhakti, you asked me this question. And I was deliberating because, you not just do you guys make people come here for 1 hour or 1.5 hours, you also give homework before they come. And so you gave me homework. You forget the homework, and now you're not asking questions from that homework. You're gone on a completely. So now this surprise paper, this like IIT JEE exam is happening here. Now,
it was a segue to enrollment management.
No, very good, very good. This is very good. But you asked me something about evolution of outreach, and actually, what I saw, what it started as was a need to educate people about institutions that they were not familiar with. But after a certain point, it all morphed into greed. It was all about how many can I get. It actually morphed into that for a lot of people, for a large number of people. And it's almost like, Facebook. Why was Facebook created? Was it created to connect with other people? We were suddenly connecting with our old friends and whatever else, right? But then Facebook became all about showing off, taking selfies. They're dying, they fall off the cliff and whatever, I mean, it was not about connecting. It was about showing off. And so, actually enrollment management is a university building function. It is not it is about building an institution. An institution is not built by constructing buildings and hiring faculty. An institution is built on how you build your enrollment management piece, how you go out and engage and empower. Recruitment has to be a byproduct of empowerment and engagement. And outreach is not outreach for students. Outreach is outreach for partnerships of all kinds, of becoming part of a community. And you've practiced that. Many of us are practicing that. So this whole idea that outreach is all about ROI on student enrollment and how many leads and how many. Sorry, did I lose everybody, or suddenly everybody disappeared from camera?
No, we're all here.
Okay.
We can see you, we can hear you.
Okay, 1 second. I was a little. Okay. I was wondering what happened. Maybe it was my internet. So outreach really needs to be looked back as what it was meant to be. Outreach is really meant to be holistic. It was not like narrow. It's a university building function. And we're investing in communities, we're investing in, we're investing in building our institutions from the outside in. That's really what outreach is for me. And that was the story, you had asked me questions about how KIC UnivAssist was formed many years back. It was really saying, how can you build your institution from outside in? How can you engage and empower high schools? So I think it's really, really important. Outreach has to be about empowerment. A byproduct of that empowerment is engagement, and a byproduct of that engagement is recruitment. The moment the focus just becomes recruitment, then you kind of morph into doing things which are very, very shallow. then what happens is we get, and now it's a very crowded space. Suddenly, now you've got 1,000 people trying to get but the strange part is, let's say in a country like India where there are 1.4 billion people, we should be marinating in about 6 to 8,000 schools. We only marinate in about 4 to 500 schools. Even in Delhi NCR, I did some math there. About 300 schools are untouched, literally untouched. There are 43, 44 schools that get all the international people, etc. Of course, the Indian universities are a little more aware, etc. But what happens is there is a lack of this larger strategy. Outreach is really university building function. It's an empowerment function, and it is a function where you are watering the tree rather than you are going to fetch the fruits in the market. You are watering the tree. That tree is going to give you lots of fruit, but you can't have the vision that I will go to the market and buy fruits only every time. No, you grow your own, you build your own relationships, your own communities. You don't recruit by cities. You don't recruit by countries. You recruit by schools, by regions, by communities. How many communities do you empower? Those many communities that you empower, that much more recruitment you will have. But somebody needs to be able to sell the idea to people in leadership, because a lot of senior leaders, university presidents and chancellors are coming to IC3. Why? Because we want to reimagine how enrollment management, you will do what, whether an outreach professional becomes a salesperson or a counselor is not in their hands. It is in the hands of the leadership that is setting them out and paying them the salary. Every outreach professional, in my opinion, and everybody listening in on this, has a beautiful heart and is committed to being and wanting to empower and be a counselor. But the pressures to bear, the belief that this is the only way, that belief is coming from top down, and which is why we are getting vice presidents, provosts, leaders, deans. People ask us, why are so many university presidents coming to IC3? Why are so many leaders coming to IC3? Because we are having a conversation at another level with them. We are saying, stop thinking about recruitment, start focusing on empowerment. Recruitment will happen. And look at Ashoka, great example, right? Ankur, you talked about Ashoka. By the way, my first exposure to Ashoka was with Vineet Gupta, and it was a meeting I had in Mumbai after Kanchi, and you had attended, I think, the 2017 conference. And one of the first co-hosts, Ashoka was the first co-host of the IC3 conference. It was a $25,000 commitment by an institution that was philanthropic. In 1 year, it suddenly emboldened me to say, okay, we can hire 1 or 2 people in our team now. We don't have to just run by volunteers. But there's a visionary leadership at Ashoka. Visionary leadership with Dr. Pramad Sinha, with Ashish Dhawan, with Vineet, and you can see what that has done. And they made the largest commitments to IC3 when nobody touched us. And that was focus on empowerment. That was a great model to follow. There was a focus on how can I educate, how can I empower, and all of you are, look, today all the pioneers in outreach are part of that original team, that Kanchi and Ankur and, the whole Jing Bang, as we say, the Ashoka folks out there. So I think that's really my idea of outreach. And I think if we can all go that route, we will never need to worry about numbers and all the rest of it. I'm going to stop speaking just to catch my breath, but Ankur and Bhakti are well aware of my problem of stopping. So please keep stopping me whenever you feel like.
We enjoy listening into you, Ganesh. But yeah, you are absolutely correct. I mean, this rush, there are a couple of problems in university outreach these days. I mean, there are 2 aspects to it. One is the Indian universities. I mean, if we look at the NEP, we are poised to add another 1,000 plus new universities to India in coming 10 years. We already have the foreign universities act passed by the parliament, where we have the international universities coming to India. We already have a huge market of international students going abroad from India to traditional destinations, but also new fancy destinations that we have never heard of. I mean, I'm actually consulting these days, and I get approached by a lot of exotic locations. Just yesterday, I received a call. There is a group that has set up a medical school in an island, remote island of Australia. And they called me and they said, we have heard that you're supposed to have a good network of schools. So why don't you help us in reaching out to X number of students? And their JD, they had a proposal for me, and their proposal said, how many number of students can you get us in 6 months? And my answer to them. And I said, thank you. Okay, bye-bye. But I mean, I brought this topic up because the concept that you so nicely explained and what we came out of, I mean, Ashoka can be the mother Ganges of outreach professionals for all of us in India. I mean, I agree with you, echo you. I mean, we all came out of Ashoka class of outreach professionals where we were trained in that aspect. And having IC3 was absolutely, I mean, visionary step, support of IC3, Ganesh by Vineet and Pramath and Ashish. I mean, all of three of them are visionary people that came together to support IC3. And then you were there as the guy leading it from the front. But having said that, I mean, there is a lot of, Ganesh, you mentioned and you touched that, there is a lot of competition. There is a lot of unrealistic expectations from outreach professionals. And both me and Bhakti, when we talk to outreach professionals, may I say it out loud, there is a lot of, burnouts happening. I mean, if you look at the average tenure of a university outreach professional, it will be around 2 years. They do 2 cycles in a university, and from the 3rd year onward, they're looking for their next jobs. I have been in that position where, I've been on a daily basis. I mean, I'm now a consultant, but still outreach professionals reach out to me and they say, Ankur, I don't know what I'm doing. There is a pressure on numbers on me. I need to do those many applications. And I am lost for words. And actually, TOC came out of this disconnect. One of the major reasons for starting TOC of this community was people to come together and talk what is going wrong in the community, and just talk and just let us know what is happening, and let's find out good ideas to work with. And you are a role model for many of us. I mean, we, as I said in the initial remark, we feel that you are somebody who is there at the top when we look at the evolution of outreach in India. I mean, and what would you say to these outreach professionals who feel then they want to be associated? They have, as you said, noble in their thoughts. They want to contribute. They want to contribute to their mission. But when they go back to their bosses, it's like quarterly reports. How many applications were you able to generate? Okay, you went to X city. How many schools did you do? Because it all, as you said, it all flows from the top. And the top is very slow to change. I say this to a lot of people, my friends. Universities are like dinosaurs. I mean, they take ages to change or adapt to the new model of working. Ashoka and Jindal worked because they were liberal arts universities. They had a model which required they going out there and explain liberal arts. So they went out there. But what about, I talked to a lot of people from engineering universities, and they're like, why should we do even outreach? What is the need for an engineering institution to go and do outreach? What is the use for a medical institution to do outreach? So outreach itself has been bracketed as a liberal arts domain. Expert people should go out and talk to schools. Otherwise, it's just JEE, CUET, or whatever. I mean, those interest exams. So what I leave it to you. What would you advise to these outreach professionals out there?
Yeah, actually, if you see some of the most selective institutions in the US or in Europe or other parts of the world also travel, you will see some of the most selective institutions travel. Outreach is not always about numbers. It is about educating people, empowering people, making sure they're making good choices. These are young lives, like I said. And I can tell you that one group of leaders at IIT, one of the IITs told me that 94% of the students at IITs were unhappy, were never going to be engineers. They were going to do something else. They were just in the wrong major. They had actually chosen an area only because they want to be at IIT. They actually want to study something else. and that they were just waiting for the day they'll get out of here. 94% of the people. And this is an institution that virtually every young kid was made to aspire for. It all happened out of comparisons and competition. My neighbor is doing this, so I will do it. IIT coaching itself is, I'm told, as a 96,000 crore industry, and the total collection of school fees is less than 3% of that. I might be completely wrong with these numbers, but whatever it is, it's very skewed. We are, outreach professionals, whether it is a prestigious institution like at IIT, I have advocated that IITs need to come and speak. We've had a couple of IIT folks come to a IC3 conference. It's important for directors of IITs to come and speak and say who is a good fit. It is not about whoever comes. I recently met a professor at St. Stephen's in Delhi, and we were discussing what role. I mean, it is the prerogative, whether you're a selective institution or you are an inclusive institution or whatever you are. It is our prerogative to make sure that we begin to build our institutions from the outside in, that we go out and make sure that the right fit individual is coming. This is not about selectivity. And as far as the fatigue is concerned, Ankur, a lot of fatigue and tiredness also comes out of a lack of imagination. For me, monotony also brings fatigue. See, what has happened is, you'll see a university, you have two parallel, and by the way, I don't talk about this, but I've been to some 400 odd institutions just in the US, and I found something very interesting. On the one side, you have the most pioneering research happening and innovation happening, which is through the research happening. And on the other side, administration had very high inertia. They're essentially repetitive. They were essentially copying what other people are doing, and they were just repeating. So this whole profession itself is currently suffering from a lack of imagination. And that is what is causing the fatigue. See, at the leadership level, it appears as though the compulsions of revenue generation through student enrollment can only be fulfilled through a certain method. For them, a lot of what I just shared, which is empowerment and engagement, seems to be very distant. And add to that, you have got a whole, so you have to actually show them how that is not distant. I very distinctly remember when Ashoka started to travel, people did not understand. They used to come to every IC3 regional forum. I remember Bhubaneswar, you were there with me in Orissa. And Vineet Gupta was there also with us in Orissa. Yeah. People didn't understand liberal arts. Today, liberal art institutions are doing fairly well, but it requires a certain imaginativeness. And monotony is causing exhaustion. These people, all your colleagues at TOC and others who are not able to convince their management, they just need to pause and just look at some hard data and bring a few case studies. It is not rocket science, but we need to just reimagine what works for Stanford or Ashoka or Delhi University may not work for a newer university, and what works for a middle tier university. And there are tier 1 schools in tier 3 cities and tier 3 schools in tier 1 cities. What is a good fit? What is that community that I can empower? What is my path?
Yeah.
The whole idea has to go beyond comparison and competition. At IC3, we are doing a research so I don't know, everybody, you started introducing IC3 conference, Ankur, at the beginning of this call. The events that we do is now 10%, 15% of what we do. Do you know that 85% of what we do at IC3 is training and research? And one of our research projects is around the cycle of violence project. The cycle of violence project, we are asking a very fundamental question. Why, since World War II, if education has grown, there are more PhDs, more universities, more educated people, more schools, why are we hurtling towards World War III? If we are getting this right, the purposelessness of the whole piece, if we are really a more educated society and we are really excelling with education, we should not be going towards tribalism and going towards this whole culture, where the United Nations is. So our hypothesis is that we've compared our children in school. When the comparisons became acute, these comparisons happen in primary school, around the way they walk, the way they talk, the way they look, the way they dress, the way they draw, the way they do math. When this comparison became acute in middle school, high school, competition was born. Competition to get into university, competition to give for an examination, competition in sport, competition in other ways. When this competition became acute in adult life, violence is born. Violence between countries, between communities. How much gossip there is in our community.
Absolutely.
How much comparison and how much competition there is. Even we get compared, and I really, every day that I meditate, I have been saying everyone is included. Everyone needs to succeed for counseling to reach every school. Every individual in this profession. But inevitably, we get compared. Comparisons and competition has become a way of life. And that takes your energy out. It drains you. And so what we need is imagination. We need creativity. We need to get the thinking brain going. And outreach has to be reimagined, as an empowerment function. And I mean, I can keep talking about it, although, but I wanted to share with this community that next year we are launching a program for university colleagues, for university professors also can join, outreach professionals can join. It's called Exceed. We'll train them on counseling. We'll train them on how to be an outreach professional and a counselor at the same time. We have 3 programs currently: Empower, Embark, and Enrich. And I have not announced Exceed in any other forum. So TOC, you are the forum where I'm telling you early next year, you will have the first cohort. But we announced this year we are taking 50-50 principals from schools and training them over 3 days on how the school ecosystem can be impacted by the counseling function. Like that, we need university leaders also to be trained on how enrollment management or outreach can be reimagined. And I think we'll be able to do that. Thank you to Bhakti for pointing out that we're doing our very first university workshop. And I think it was inspired in many ways by both of you trying to help this community. We said, okay, can we do 2 hours to really support this community, also. So absolutely. But I noticed, Ankur, you raised your hand. You had a follow-up question on something I might have said.
No, I just had a comment on what you said. I mean, people trying to copy what has been successful for others. I mean, I am known as a person who has worked with Ashoka and Jindal. A lot of places I go to, they'll say, we want to build the next Jindal. We want to build the next Ashoka. Can you do it for us? And I'm like, no, I can't, because I mean, what worked for them was a completely different thing. What you see, it's like an iceberg. You see the success of Ashoka and you're like, okay, wow, they did 600 admissions in 3 years for undergraduate, and I want to do that. But you don't see the 5 years groundwork that these guys put in to make Ashoka that it was. So, I mean, that was my comment, and I will give to Bhakti the next. Yeah.
Actually, I also feel like a lot of universities, have really come a long way and have really done very, very well. They have been empowering communities and, and I think that along with Ashoka, there are a lot of others who are doing exceptional work now, Indian universities. But I think our greater challenge is a student who should come to one of these new age institutions still will wait for the Delhi University or the Mumbai University result to come and say, okay, if I don't get in there, then I will come here. So I think it's important and that's what we are trying to break. Bhakti actually led briefly the Indian Higher Education Committee at IC3, and we're trying to break that. We're still not able to get to the solution, but we need mainstream institutions around the world, not just in India, but around the world, to come forth and say, even if we are selective, it is our responsibility to ensure that student suicides are mitigated. That a kid should not give up his life because he doesn't get into my institution. It is my responsibility to end the tyranny of a coaching institute that says that I can be the only one that saves you. The economic situation of a family in a tier 3, tier 4 town can be completely altered due to lack of counseling. When you don't provide counseling or guidance to a family that only earns X amount of money in a certain place, they are going to invest a lot of their hard-earned savings from year 8 to year 12 on trying to get him to something that is not his or her path. So, lack of counseling and lack of outreach professionals also reaching those tier 4 cities. We did a regional forum in Guntur, tier 4. Vijayawada is tier 3. Indore is tier 2. Hyderabad is tier 1. Or Mumbai and Delhi is tier 1. But you have to go further down. India resides in fact, since we have so many, I only see Indian faces here. And of course, other than Clay, who's half Indian, India resides in a lot of pockets. Today, these tier 4 towns are as large as Mumbai was in 2010, GDP, household income perspective. Some of them are really, really large. And it's not just about income, but their aspirations are there, and there are opportunities that they aren't familiar with. So this whole marination in a wine and dine group of, you will get Rick Singer kind of scandals in the US more and more. Unless we humanize the whole exercise of transitioning from school to university. It has to be humanized. By universities have as much responsibility as schools have. That we need to humanize this whole process, because we are not into car sales. We are not into commodity sales. We are about human lives, and everyone sees obviously, and profit is not bad, profit is useful, but you cannot profit off certain things, right? If you say that I will profit off selling the blood of people or taking, their organs out, it literally, understand that the profundity of this profession, this is the life and soul and organ of a student. You cannot play with this. I think most people are very casual about what their role is. They don't even know how serious this is. You could have led someone to suicide if you got this wrong as a university, or if you were indifferent to what was happening. It's really important. It's not good enough for IITs to say, look the other way and say everybody wants to come to us. No, you have to come and say what is good and what's not. And we've been advocating that. This is not about who's doing how much business. These are, after all, young people whose lives will change forever through our actions. Sorry, I saw, Bhakti, you were ready for a question.
But now I'm ready for another question, because, when you say no, you're not sticking to the syllabus, it's because the conversation is flowing so beautifully that I want to make sure that I'm asking questions which are now relevant to what we're talking about, right? And I think that's the beauty of always talking to you, Ganesh, because what I'm prepared for and what ends up happening in my conversation with you are two very different things. So I'm also prepared for out of syllabus. I think I want to touch back a little bit, because I personally resonate with the whole point of management, right? There are so many outreach individuals who genuinely, like Ankur said, want to say associate with the IC3 movement. They understand, right? The merit in, it's not just about brand visibility, it is also about wanting to do something. It's about, can I contribute in some way? And I think the beauty of IC3 lies in the fact that it makes everyone a part of the solution, right? It's not owned, it's not dictated. It's in a way that, hey, you've got something to offer, okay, Can you do a workshop? Okay, can you help us with this? Can you do that? There is that whole ethos of volunteering, I think, is so beautiful. And I always say this whenever I'm talking to anyone about IC3, and there's a reason I'm talking about this experience. Pre IC3, I had an extremely corporate background. Okay, before I came into the university space, and I was working with higher ed, I was working with a lot of schools, but it was a very corporate background. It was a very different mindset, which worked for where I was. But when I started working with IC3, I think I discovered the learner and teacher in me, which I never knew existed. I had no idea that I wanted to make a difference, that I had it in me to even make one person think differently about something, or that I was capable of thinking differently about things. So I think that, this whole ethos of volunteering is the biggest service of IC3. It's not the institute, it's not the conference. For me, my personal takeaway is you are galvanizing communities. And why I'm saying this is because the ethos of contribution is not something that comes very naturally to a lot of people when you're working in the business space, right? And that's where the management that comes in, right? I'm requesting whoever is not on mute to please mute yourselves. When it comes to management and convincing management to look at watering the tree and not just picking the fruit off the shelf in a supermarket, one, I think there are a lot of moving parts where exposing them to the impact of community building through multiple exchanges directly with schools, directly with students in schools, on platforms like IC3. Also bringing, I think, outreach professionals to that point where they stand up and say, I'm sorry, but you have to get with the program. This is not how it's going to work anymore. And outreach leaders need to have the strength and the courage to stand up and say, this is how it needs to work. It's not a zero sum game, but this is very much a part of the strategy of community building, right? If you want to call it a strategy. So I think we all need to stand our ground somewhere and also showcase impact. If we have benefited, we should talk about it. We should share it with other leaders where we have benefited. And I think it's going to take a lot to galvanize. We have a lot of years of work ahead of us. But this segues me, and I'm conscious of time. It's 7, we have 30 minutes, and we have a lot of questions. So I'm going to try to, yeah. But I see Sudarshana here. Sudarshana, yeah, there you are. So Sudarshana, we'll start off with Sudarshana. She has a question, and then we'll move on to the others also who have the pre-registered questions. Go ahead, Sudarshana.
Oh, hi. I could not have missed this session for anything. Yeah, so Ganesh, I had one question. If there was one moment you had to choose in your professional life which made an impact on you, what would it be?
It's a tough one. Everything happened to, by accident. I don't know if I was so shy. I retired to become a monk in 2013, November. And when I went to my meditation teachers, they said, send me back. They said, middle path. You have to find nirvana in the marketplace. And I was like, what is this? Yeah, I don't want to be involved in this. IC3 was purely because I didn't know what to do with my life. And also, there was a different chair of the first annual IC3 conference. We had asked someone to chair the first conference. That person, in about a month's time, freaked out and stepped away from it. So I was never intending to become visible with this work. It just so happened that there was nobody left. I mean, so I would not even have been there at the conference. I had shared this idea with people, and somebody was to do this. And because that person just freaked out and just, or could not really deal with it or could not do it, and we honored that. Then he said, if we really want to bring counseling to every school, then you need to step up. And so that's how it was born. But I'd say, Sudarshana ma'am, you are a legend in your own right. You asking me that question. I'd have to go back. I think a lot of it, and your name probably in some way, my father's first name was Sudarshan, and it reminds me of what really shaped my ideas about the world, I think a lot of what happened when he was alive, uh, 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 and um, and right after he passed away. Actually, 12th of July probably I would say is a benchmark day, 2001 in my life that had a huge impact on me. I went to teach a class of 23 GRE students only a few hours after my father passed away on 11th of July. Because I had made that commitment. I had actually never been late for a class, or I had never missed a class in my 17 years of teaching. And so I ended up going to teach, and those kids came to know much later that I had showed up. I think each one of those kids who were in that class, they were never the same people again. So I just felt like that was probably one moment where I realized that if I say something, I do it. The world believes you, and I think that I learned that doing exactly what you say and saying only what you do is critical. The world comes to you, and IC3 is really born out of that. You know, despite of whatever people's perceptions may be, I think we are here for a very simple reason, which is to bring counseling to every school. So that probably was the most impactful day, and I learned a lesson from that. That just by being your word, you can actually change the world. And I also had another profound learning again with my dad being unwell. He was on a ventilator for 4 months in January 2000, and I figured, and he survived for a year and a half, obviously after that. And I figured that if I change my inner ideas, my inner world, then my outer world changes. That my outer world doesn't impact my inner world, but my inner world impacts my outer world. So, so I actually began to do, that's how I found my wife, who was a meditator on a matrimonial website, because I found her very calm. I was seeking that peace, and I think peace and purpose go together. So I think our profession, all of our profession of outreach, of counseling, of the work we do is a lot of self-work. It is not about changing the world. It is about working on our own selves. So I think IC3 really has grown on me. I became an accidental chair the first year. It was my idea, but I was not meant to be the chair of that conference. And then IC3 keeps growing on me. And so yeah, hopefully that answers your question. I promise Bhakti and Ankur, I will let some personals. I will speak from my heart. And they said we want secrets, and I said okay, whatever secrets I can, things that I haven't spoken about in many ways, I'm sharing, which are important. But thank you for your question. I'm going to look for the next question.
I mean, Ganesh, and I'm so touched by you opening up that side of your personal life to us. I don't have words when I heard your story of that class. I mean, and your dad being unwell, and you being in the class the day after he passed away. It's really inspirational, and I think a lot of what we see on the stage, Ganesh. I mean, a lot of people see you on the stage in this big aura. They will get to see the groundwork on the ethics and the morals and the sincerity. And I loved your line, doing what you say and saying only what you can do. I mean, that's the most simplest thing that anybody can follow, but that is the most complex thing that people find to have. So thank you so much for enlightening us with sharing us with your personal story. And, this is a totally different session now after you shared that. And it is a memorable day for me also to hear that side of you. But yeah, so over to Johnson. Johnson, you had a question that you had sent in. I'll move on to you to ask that question, please.
Thanks, Ankur. Ganesh, after hearing your stories, I'm actually wondering also, should I just throw away my question? But I'll still stick because it's, I think, important. But very briefly, a line, and I think I wrote somewhere, every time you're talking about maths, you're talking about universities. I am compelled to say this. I started as a teacher 41 years ago, and I'm going to go back into teaching after my retirement from the Navy. So, that's, but I started with maths and I'm going to a different subject. So the question is, you've repeated this idea that counseling is a requirement, and in the entirety of what you talked in every school, and probably I stretch it to every student. But there's a huge change happening. For example, we have heard in this forum about from IBDP to IBCP, career planning. IB is planning online IB, which for years no one thought would ever happen. Uh, the field I might go into is global politics, which is less than 10 years, but it's taken over the extended essay and things. So the change. And the last, somebody asked me, tell me about maritime domain. Of course, I've been in there, and I kind of think with this pace of change, you already had a complex field where IITs and medical and others were kind of dominating the narrative. And what Ankur said, only liberal arts seem to be interested in outreach. What will keep a career counselor or an outreach professional keep the balance to serve the widest range of students? I mean, because at the end of it, you might come across a student who might just have something altogether different. And with the pace of change, what would be the best way to serve them directly in counseling, or like I am who a teacher come counselor?
Yeah. So actually, the qualities of a career and college counselor are so different from everyone else. First, if you look at a school environment, the math teacher or a subject teacher, doesn't matter what subject teacher and doesn't matter what curriculum, knows all the math. Right? I mean, a line drawn from the center of the circle perpendicular to the chord bisected the chord 30 years back is bisecting the chord today. It will bisect the chord 10 years from now. All of the algebra is going to be the same. Nothing is going to change. So it doesn't matter how innovative you are as a math teacher, you're essentially teaching the same math. English grammar has remained the same. Subjects that disagreed with verbs are continuing to disagree with verbs, and Ren and Martin is still red in color. There is no change even in the color of that book. Right? So the fact is that a lot in school doesn't change. If you see the quality, essential quality of a and careers in colleges are constantly changing. Attention spans have fallen from 4 hours to 40 seconds. So if you see a career and college counselor, he or she cannot afford to sit on a chair called I know even for a short period. Anybody who claims to be a great counselor really is being, is someone who sits on a chair called I don't know or I want to know, who can easily tell a student that I don't have the answers, but that let's navigate to the answers. I realized after visiting 400 odd US institutions, I had become quite, we were producing absolute scores on the GRE when it was 1600 on 1600. People thought counseling and all of this was like once you've had 20 years of doing it, then you become a champion. No, you constantly learn. You constantly evolving as a counselor. It grows on you. And what you're really trying to do is work on your own inner idea or your inner world, which says that I want more of what I had. I'll have the same tea or coffee. Bhakti was probably having something right now. I don't know what she was drinking, but it was, okay, water. But tea or coffee, you will see we get up from the same side of the bed. We have the same kind of tea, the same kind of emotions every day. Largely, we are repetitive beings. After 21 years of age, we become repetitive beings. The people we are guiding are often less than 21 years of age. They are imaginative still because their brain is still developing. So if you see that really we have become repetitive beings, we are going to try to look at the world from our past lens, trying to guide people who are walking into a world which is completely different. So the preparation that we are doing at the institute or what, it really is about grounding people in the idea that a good counselor is the one who says, I don't know, or I want to know, and let's find out together, and is humble enough and able enough to say that let's see what this leads to. Now, what is very interesting though is that everything that we are trying to advise to young people, whether as outreach professionals or as counselors, is here and now. So if you are trying to explain a major to someone, like say, okay, this is, I do something around sports management, or you talk about photography, or you talk about food science, you really need to be able to talk about food science with the context of a bag of Lay's chips and what the process is for the chip to land up in your mouth. You know, what is a career that is built around a pack of chips or a bowl of biryani? See, the fact is that because we are abstract in our own ideas, outreach professionals need to bring alive their college and their college programs through their conversation. And for that, they need to have the humility to say, I don't fully understand what I'm doing. What are earth science options? What does earth science really mean? Actually, the day outreach professionals and counselors fully understand earth science, a lot of people tell my child wants to do automobile, and I investigate a little bit further. He doesn't even know that automobile is an application of mechanical engineering, and that mechanical engineering is really born out of physics and math, and that, you know, if he's half detesting math, why are you going to try to get him to do stuff? I mean, so the reality is that we are very distant in many ways. It doesn't matter what curriculum, IB or CBSE or Cambridge or whatever. We don't need a body to tell us what to do as counselors and as teachers. We need to have context. Career and college counseling is about context. It's about bringing things alive here and now. That's what it is. I mean, I can talk more pedagogy, etc. But in the interest, Johnson sir, maybe you and I can have another conversation. But in the interest of time, I'll let other questions come through.
Yes. We have a question from John Erickson. You know, John, he is, just for everyone's benefit, because he couldn't attend this session, but he did send a question. He's the Senior Director of International Graduate Outreach and Admissions at Bryant University, USA. And his question is a very pertinent one. And he says, what is a way to overcome misrepresentation from agents, sub-agents, and even in-country representatives within the field of international admissions?
Honestly, I don't know. I haven't, I don't know. I think that the metric of measurement has to be altered. I would say that if you are going to compensate and someone based on the student that they brought in, etc., the metric has to be altered. There has to be a student interview. What guidance did you get? What were the get ratings on a scale of 0 to 10 on 4 or 5 parameters? If it's not about the student arriving, it's did the student last 6 months, 1 year? Was the student? So, you know, there have to be some metrics that go beyond, you know, a seat filled. I think that's probably the only thing I can think of. But again, what was the effort that was put in to actually help find a match, right? Was it a match? And honestly, this is not about people on the ground. This is all about the university. The university needs to set, you know, if the university sets unrealistic, aggressive enrollment targets and then expects, and you know, the guy who's trying to survive and save his job or whatever and is trying to, you put these outreach professionals under the bus. Whereas, you know, so I think that clarity, it's not about, we cannot blame anybody. I mean, everybody is trying to run a family, run a house, etc. But if you tell them your metric is match, what is a good match or a good fit, or what is, how aware is this individual? How much did he understand? Did he weigh his options? Did he understand the financial implication? You could do an interview as you enroll and then say, okay, if these are the, you score though that in that interview and you say, okay, if they score, then you get paid. Otherwise, you don't get paid. You didn't. then you did not just bring a student, you counseled a student if you did well on that metric. But again, I honestly, I don't know. I mean, I think we need to find out a way to humanize the whole process. I mean, if you really don't want to productize it and you want to humanize it, then we need to find a way to do that. But yeah, this is just one suggestion that comes to me.
Agreed. I think that's a very valid point. May I now invite Neeraj for his question? Neeraj,
Thank you.
over to you.
Yeah, Ganesh, this is phenomenally good because I relate to a lot of aspects, and I'm probably at that stage where you started IC3, so feeling overwhelmed with all this happening. So my question, which I had preset, is what are your key approaches to collaboration?
Can you specify a little bit more on what you really wanted to? So, I mean, for me, it's, yeah, sorry, go ahead. If you can elaborate a little.
So I believe collaboration is a very hyped word, and I've been trying to look at collaboration with a lot of people around me, but unsuccessful. I feel I'm missing out how I can collaborate. Yeah.
Okay, I get it. I think it's alignment. It's alignment. For me, the approach to collaboration has been alignment. People at times may have felt excluded by IC3, but that was completely not the intention. Actually, we were obsessed by a larger goal, which was counseling in every school. And we basically said that we want to train in-house within school. So because we were obsessed, we were just looking at anybody who can support that. Like, how can you help teachers become counselors? And I think alignment is one word that comes to me. Inclusion is at the heart of everything that we do, and I always feel like if you honor every individual for what they are doing, there is nothing but collaboration that's happening. And I'll explain what I mean by this. Just because we have a certain mission or a certain goal doesn't mean that others with other goals aren't important. They are also in many ways contributing to this larger goal. So we need all the independents, we need all the people who are working outside of the school and university ecosystem to actually help, because in many ways the school and university system is not adequate to support all the children that are there. But if as an organization I have to choose how to collaborate, I just need to see what is the purpose of the organization, and is the purpose of the individual or the institution or in alignment with that organization. To be honest with you, I have said it multiple times. I can tell you this again with all conviction. The purpose is not IC3 for us. The purpose is counseling in every school. IC3 is the means for us. I see in the next 5 years a lot of organizations collapsing into IC3 or IC3 collapsing into other organizations. I actually see that where the alignment is strong, there will be a collapse. What you call in the corporate world mergers and acquisition, because we are all in the philanthropic space with the IC3 Institute and TOC and all of that. I actually see this like-minded community to actually grow. We are at 1,200 odd volunteers today. We have reached 93 countries. I am expecting in 3 years we'll be 5,000 volunteers. Our team size is now 40 people. We'll be 100 people. But not just this. At one point, we'll get to the tipping point where people fully understand what counseling is, whether it's outreach professionals or others. And then people will go beyond the idea of their own organization. For me, I do not think IC3 will continue to operate if IC3 became greater than the purpose of IC3. I think a lot of organizations are established where the people or other things become important, the organization itself becomes more important rather than the purpose of the organization. At least in, I mean, and I have had a reputation of stepping back from everything that I initiated throughout my 25 years. And I already feel that I am not the face. I mean, Jim McLaughlin is, Neha Dalvi, Neha Bahal is, Amrita Gulati is. There are IC3 leaders who are the face of IC3. And my hope is, see, because a lot of people have seen from a distance, I was very worried from the very beginning that IC3 should not end up becoming about individuals, about me or about someone else. IC3 has to dissolve into a larger purpose for which it was created, and it has to just be in that space. So I think collaboration happens very naturally, Neerajji, when you are in alignment and when the purpose is higher than the organization or the people itself. And the day I feel I'm an impediment, I will just step back completely, because I was compelled to be in this role in many ways. It was my idea. I had the pedagogies. Today, I play a certain role. But I said the other day to Bhakti and Ankur, you run IC3, yeah? TOC, you want to run, you run. I mean, you resonate. Whoever resonates, you come, you run this. You want counseling in every school. You want to stop student suicide. You want to give purpose to children. You want to make families, economically stable, and make sure that this becomes a humane exercise. I have seen too many non-profits and for-profits get consumed by their endowments and their greatness and their all the great things that they do, and they work more like for-profits than non-profits. They are very dangerous. And it's important that we do not get lost in the idea of IC3. This is not the idea of IC3 or on what we believe. It is not important. We get lost in the idea of counseling in every school, purpose for every child. Whoever gets lost in that idea is bound to benefit. I'll stop there. Yeah, Bhakti, I'll let you bring.
Yeah, I mean, it's a segue to the next question. But before I get there, I think I also want to acknowledge the fact that, there are different purposes and different missions in different communities. And I think they can overlap, and they can collaborate, and they can serve each other's purposes, as long as, and this is something that I hear you say, and I know that you believe in, which is, it's not competition, it's collaboration. And I think, nobody has to compromise their core mission, but wherever have the acumen, the intelligence, and the lack of, and no insecurity, to come together and join forces, where that talents can make a difference to each other's purposes and missions. And I think, the whole concept of collaborating is something that we're deeply invested in, and we're really excited to see how we can make a difference to counseling in, the mission of counseling in every school, while we also serve the purpose of professional growth and development of anyone who is in this space, irrespective of whether you're in counseling or you're a service provider or you're an independent counselor. With that, I also want to segue into the next question, which is the burning question. Ganesh, I cannot tell you how many people have also DM'd me this question, and you have been expecting it, and I will say it. There are people who are really wanting to be a part of the movement, who are not, school counselors. And while this question has also come publicly sometimes, and I'll say this openly on this forum because everyone's been witness to those conversations, we have been very clear about the fact that every mission has its own path, and it is the movement's prerogative to decide who aligns and who doesn't. And you cannot judge and label anyone because they don't align with you. it is not okay for them to do that with the movement. And therefore, I'm asking this question from people who are genuinely invested in and aligning with the IC3 movement. And after this session, I can guarantee you we're going to get even more DMs saying, can we sign up for the institute? Can we, how do we help, whatever, right? So where are we as IC3 when it comes to that perception of, independent counselors and inclusion of that set? I'm not even talking about companies and service providers, but independent counselors.
I want to first ask for forgiveness to anybody who might have felt excluded. This is not a project for exclusion. So to everybody who watches this, who has not been able to come to IC3, please forgive us. This is not in any way undermining what anybody is doing. We set out to create powerhouses within schools. We wanted to get counseling inside schools. Our mission was very, very razor sharp focused, and that's how since year one we've been focused on that. We are welcoming some independents who are beginning to come to IC3. Many of them are volunteering 20 hours, 10 hours without an agenda, volunteering to support training. Many of them are former school counselors who have come out of school system. They come with a wealth of knowledge, and they are not in certain models which we are not permitting right now. So everybody is welcome. You need to go through a process. Please send, please, we have an inclusion, diversity and scholarship committee. Please send your request to participate either in the conference or in the regional forums. At the IC3 Institute, currently we have only programs for full-time employees of schools. We've had many universities that have talked about us bringing some of our, so we are doing collaborative research on certain areas and other things, but we have had requests to offer a master's degree in counseling. We have had requests to do programs which should be for people who are not employed in schools. Right now, we are consumed by the idea of helping those who are already employed in schools. If you are not employed in schools, eventually, and we take this as feedback, that we should have a program for you. We did some training with B.Ed students, at STIE in Mumbai. These are people who are training to become teachers. So we did a 60-hour program, 50-hour program with them. We have some other programs. So what we are saying is we want to inspire a generation of new counselors. So we are working with college-going students for them to take on counseling as a profession, training them. We will expand. We have very, very limited resources, Bhakti, as you know. We barely survive, and we survived the pandemic without any. We have no membership fees. We have no fees that we charge for our trainings. Literally, our conference attendance is heavily subsidized for school delegates. It doesn't even pay for their meal. We barely are managing to pay our salaries. We are growing our teams because we could not have survived with people who are burning out. Exactly what you say, So please allow us some time. I think that everybody who is outside of the school ecosystem or outside of the university ecosystem has a major role to play also to help bring counseling to every child and to every school and purpose to every child. And we will create the environment in due course. Right now, if you are an independent, please write to us. You write to me personally at founder@IC3 Movement if you'd like. I will forward that request. Please forgive us if you ever felt excluded. We absolutely honor the work of every professional in this field, and it's going to take every one of us to actually achieve the goal of counseling for every kid and in every school. So it doesn't matter where you are doing it from, it's important. And I'm grateful for your interest in coming and being part of IC3. We are grateful for that. Thank you. Sorry, Bhakti, I think we have completely run out of time, but over to
Yes,
you.
we have, but and I think thank you, Ganesh. You've covered so much ground, and you have. I mean, if I could share what was going on WhatsApp while this session was going on, our community is blowing up because people are literally making notes of your quotable quotes and posting there. I'm not making this up. Everyone here is watching that happen on the community. I'll share some screenshots with you. I think, often when you are so engrossed in the work that you're doing, you sometimes don't realize the impact that it has on someone you've never even met. And Ganesh, that is the case with you. And I know that this session is very useful for this community because we want more people to know the context. We want more people to understand the mission. We want more people to have patience with alignment and finding that alignment, right? And I think just showing compassion to each other, saying, you don't have to label. It's okay. All right, we are all in this doing what we can. It's all right. So Ganesh, thank you so much. And I had said this in your introduction when I introduced you last year in the conference when I was hosting it, and I said akla chalo. All right, and I think when I see you, that's how I feel, that whether someone's with you, not with you, you have a mission, you're on it, you're a man with a mission for 20 years, and now you have a whole you have global community behind you. And we really want to thank you for being here today, for sharing your story, for sharing your learnings, experiences, and wisdom. And for everyone who attended the session sincerely and paid so much attention, thank you so much for all of you. Thank you for being here.
I
Thank
mean,
you.
the
Thank
last
you.
thing to Ganesh, I mean, I don't know, Bhakti has concluded, but I still want to say this. I don't know where 90 minutes went. I mean, listening to him is like listening to a teacher, and he is a teacher at heart, as he said in the
Yes.
beginning. I mean, it's a treat to listen to him, and I have already forwarded messages to Ganesh. I mean, we are seeing them in the community. I mean, amazing response. Thank you so much, Ganesh, and we look forward to being collaborating with you. And as I said in my initial introduction of you, we are all products who came out of the IC3 school of volunteers. I mean, and Bhakti said very nicely. I mean, one of the key aspects of IC3 is bringing in this value of volunteering to our ecosystem and volunteering our time, which is more crucial than money. Actually, people can donate money and forget about it, but actually volunteering our time to a cause is much bigger than that. So Ganesh, thank you so much for educating us. This new breed of admissions and outreach and career counseling professionals that you have initiated, and we look forward to working with you and taking the IC3 mission forward to our own ways. Bye-bye.
Thank you.